So last year, around CES time, you guys had a bunch of hardware news.
Yep.
And not this year. Oh, do you need an on mic?
Hello.
There you go, you're on. So this year, no hardware, software partnerships. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's new this year at CES?
Yeah, so the focus for Fitbit this year at CES has been more on the software. So we announced a few big things, one of which was, we announced the launch of a community feed feature within the app, because what we noticed is that a lot of our users were taking photos of their dashboard or their sleep stats or their activity stats, screenshots, and posting them to like Instagram, Facebook, et cetera. And we felt it would create a much stronger community if we did that within the Fitbit app. So that's going to be a huge thing that we're going to be launching, just because the social networking aspect of Fitbit is such a huge part of what made us successful. Secondly, FitStar, which is the personalized coaching and guidance app that we acquired over a year and a half ago. We're relaunching that with a ton of new features, a lot more personalization driven by data that we're collecting from your Fitbit device. And then we have a deal that we announced with UHC, which is the largest health insurance company in the United States. So this is a huge deal where participants in this program are getting paid up to $1,500 for using a Fitbit. So this is, people have always talked about when are we going to do a deal with the insurance industry, and this is the start.
So I'm curious because, you guys are I think it's the Charge 2 is the best-selling fitness wearable.
Yeah.
Is that correct
It
still?
is, yeah.
Okay. And so you guys obviously have tapped into a market of people who are really interested in fitness and they want that kind of easy wearable to go along with it. But what about the broader market? I mean, do these partnerships help you in any way towards capturing kind of the average Joe who just maybe wants to count their steps, maybe doesn't, maybe wants notifications, maybe doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job in capturing the mass market. I mean, to date, we've shipped over 54 million devices. So I'd say it's pretty mainstream. I mean, a lot of that's been in North America, but Europe's is our fastest growing region. So I think this whole trend of using connected health and fitness devices to try to improve your health is really a global phenomenon, and it's, it's growing for us. I think these partnerships definitely help. The reason that we focus on them is, we can't do everything ourselves, so we want to work with partners to increase, what we can offer to our users.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I read somewhere that like 40% of Fitbit customers are kind of 35 and older. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just younger people who are trying to adopt the latest technology. It's a pretty broad swath of people, and I wouldn't say there's a specific demographic peak. It's pretty much across the board, like early 20s to mid 50s.
Well, I mean, even anecdotally, like, do you watch Broad City?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so at the very least, I know you watched this one episode where the flight attendants who are a bit older are really excited about their Fitbit, and meanwhile, you have like the young millennials who are hanging out on the plane and are making fun of them for it, essentially.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you tap in? Not just it might be broad strokes. You have a little bit of everyone or plenty of everyone, but how do you really tap into the most coveted demographic, which is that younger millennial demographic?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we've done a pretty good job. I mean, our stats show that we have a lot of 20, 30 somethings who are in our user base, and even more surprisingly, we actually have a lot of teens as well. I mean, I'm struck, maybe it's just a San Francisco thing, but just the number of kids that happen to have Fitbits, either ones that their parents gave them as their parents upgraded to the next version, or ones that they bought new for their kids. But I think for us, like, that's why we have such a broad portfolio of products, is that there's no one size fits all. So, different products from like $50 to $300, and I think that's part of our strategy to, hit a broader portion of the market.
And I want to talk also, I mean, I don't know if you were here during our Gadgets podcast, but we spent most of the morning actually talking about kind of the evolution of the wearable market. Last year at CES, there were like 1,000 smartwatches, right, and fitness trackers. That number has gone down a little bit this year. And then there's also this emergence in non-wrist-worn trackers, right? So the shirt or the socks or the niche, baby belly monitor, or, I mean, it's broadening out, right? Where it's not just about the wrist anymore. How do you guys address that when you look into the next year, the next 2 years? Will you ever exit the wrist, or will you at least expand beyond the wrist?
Yeah, so I don't think we'll ever exit the wrist just because it's a great place for people to wear these type of devices. But again, for us, we're not stuck on one particular form factor. I mean, as a company, when we launched, we started off with clippable activity trackers. Then we moved to the wrist. Then we even launched non-wearable devices like our Aria connected scale. And I think on our last couple earnings call, I've mentioned that we're definitely looking into expanding into new form factors. So part of our strategy is making sure that we understand, what are the health and fitness goals that people want to achieve, whether it's to lose weight, become more active, sleep better, eat better, and then develop the devices and services that help people accomplish those goals. And it's not just going to be focused on one area of the body.
What about the people who, there's a lot of critics out there who say that, this dashboard of numbers doesn't really make sense as we move forward, right? The steps taken can kind of be a little bit of a fluke, flights climbed. It ends up being just a jumble of numbers, and you hope to beat your streak or to do better than your average. But in reality, is that a valuable way to look at how you're taking care of your body? And a good example is that new ring. I'm sure you've heard of it, the Motive Ring that focuses on minutes, active minutes, as opposed to any steps taken or anything like that.
Yep.
I mean, when you look at the evolution of Fitbit, is that something that you guys would move more into as sort of proactive numbers as opposed to like a dashboard of stats?
Well, I think it's just beyond even proactive numbers. I mean, I think the foundation has to be there where we're collecting enough data for people, so whether that's steps, floors, heart rate, et cetera. So always continue to innovate there. But I think it's, again, beyond proactive numbers. I think the future of this category is more going to be about personalized coaching and guidance. And I think that's where a recent announcement around FitStar is pretty exciting, where we're actually taking some of the feedback from users and adapting workouts to people's personal preferences and abilities. And so I think that's where the future is.
Well, and one way, like you said, to leverage the data that you have is to say, okay, well, now we can personalize things for you, right? But obviously, you are collecting a ton of data about how active people are, but not only that, where they are and what they like to do. You make money on your hardware, right? But when do you start kind of generating revenue off of this data? And what do you do with it? Who is the buyer? Who is the partnership? How does that work?
So, I mean, from the very start of the company, we've had a very consumer-focused view, and when I say that, we're all about the sanctity of the user's data. So from the very beginning, we're pretty adamant that we would never sell the data that we collected directly to third parties. And I think in the future, the way that the data helps our revenue stream is that it's really about benefiting the user. So how can we use the data to better personalize the advice and insights and coaching that we give the user, and hopefully the users find enough value in that they pay for it. So that's our strategy. It's clearly not about selling data to third parties. I think to do that breaks a lot of consumer trust that we've built up over the years. So again, we have to find ways that we use this data and give users better tools that arise from the use of that data.
I want to move a little bit into the business side of things. You announced new hardware. I actually covered it in September, which was great. But then that didn't ship, and in your last earnings call, you were like, we're not going to make it for the holiday season. And for the last few days, I think stock is at an all-time low. I mean, what's the plan?
The plan is, I think, we still have to be focused on internal execution. I mean, that particular production issue was around the Flex 2. But I think the good thing is that, right now, if you look on Amazon, both Charge 2 and Flex 2, incredibly high-rated products, both over 4 stars. Charge 2 is the best-selling wearable activity tracker in the world on Amazon. So I think we're continuing to produce great products. And, if we continue to do that, develop software that takes advantage of the data that we're producing in a way that's incredibly valuable to users, as we continue to integrate more deeply into the healthcare ecosystem, as clearly evidenced by the partnership that we just had with United Healthcare. I mean, those are all great milestones that we continue to achieve. And if we do that, I think, the stock itself will take care of itself.
Right. So is that your message kind of to shareholders? Like, just hold on.
Look, we continue to create great products, create great partnerships, and, hopefully that's going to result in a great effects all around.
So let's talk about competition, which is fun, right? Fitbit. We're like in the sports
Yeah, it is
market,
about
right?
competition, so.
Okay, so let's start with Jawbone. You guys were in a lawsuit with Jawbone. And Jawbone, you said, okay, well, we're going to give up on this lawsuit. Jawbone's about to file for bankruptcy. It's not worth it. And Jawbone came back and said, no, you depleted our funds. You kept us in court. That's why we're filing for bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's some harsh competition right there. That's severe. Do you want to tell us exactly what went on with that? Because that's what's been reported. Maybe you have a different version of that story.
There's not much I can comment on legal issues, but all I can say is, look at what's going on in the market and with consumers. Our products continue to be incredibly well-selling. We're the #1 leader in the category in pretty much every country that we're in around the world. And, our preference is to compete in the marketplace, not in the courts.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and I beg your honesty, okay? It's a tough one. I want to know what Fitbit's greatest strength is as a company, and also Fitbit's greatest weakness. And if you say, like, oh, we work too hard or care too much, I'm calling bullshit.
We work too hard. No. Can I leave now? No, I think the biggest strength is, and we're beginning to understand this more as we integrate more deeply with the healthcare ecosystem, is that we've built an incredible consumer brand over the years, and we have a high degree of consumer loyalty and trust. And I think as we talk to insurance companies, hospital systems, doctors, et cetera, that means a lot because there's so many good solutions being created in healthcare today, but what they're missing is a high level of consumer engagement and excitement. I mean, when's the last time that people got excited about logging into their hospital's web portal? I mean, I don't even know if people know how to get there.
The last time, or did that ever happen?
First time ever, and ever. And so what we can do is really bring a consumer interface to the healthcare system, and I think that's a really powerful concept. So I think that's where a lot of the value and strength of Fitbit resides today and in the future. I think in terms of weakness, as a smaller company, our focus has always been about how do we execute. It's less about the competition. I mean, we always have to worry about that, but our focus has been, let's not be our own worst enemy in terms of, launching products, creating things that are great quality, things that people love. So my focus has been, how do we keep the company moving forward, hitting our milestones, and executing on our vision.
So the weakness is, as a small company, being able to execute on these kind of large-scale visions.
I think, look, you can't control what happens elsewhere in the market, but the things that we can control are the way that we operate our business. So that's really, since that's what we can control, that's what we choose to focus on.
Okay, well, that was really wiggly, but let's just leave it at that. One more tough one before we're done. What is the challenge? If you look at 2017, you guys have all these partnerships in place. You have amazing data. You're going into this personalized world, and I'm sure that there are new products on the horizon. Mm-hmm. What, to you, is the biggest obstacle? What do you have to crush in 2017 to be successful?
I think, what we have to do is a lot more focus on software. I mean, I think people see Fitbit as a hardware company, and we're going to continue to release great hardware products. But 2/3 of our engineers are in software engineering, and I think that's where a lot of the magic is going to come. Is as you pointed out before, we collect tremendous amounts of data. We probably have the largest database of personal biometric information in the world, and our challenge is how do we unlock that value and provide tools, advice, insights, guidance to users that really provide real health outcomes. I think that's how we create a lasting company, is that when people wear a Fitbit, they understand, okay, when I wear this, I'm going to become healthier, I'm going to become a better person. And the analogy that I draw really is with the auto industry, where you wouldn't get into a car today without a seatbelt or airbag. I mean, that's like critical equipment. Whereas years ago, that wasn't the case. And autonomous driver systems today are kind of the same thing. They're a little bit nice to have today, but in the future they'll be need to haves. And for Fitbit, it's about transitioning the company from what people might consider nice to have to a need to have, where in the future, to leave the house without your Fitbit, you'd be entirely crazy to do that, because not wearing a Fitbit would have such profound impacts on your health. So that's where we want to take the company.
Okay. Well, James, I could sit up here with you all day, but I'm not allowed. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jordan.
Appreciate it. And we're going to go straight into our next one. You can go ahead and hop off. Yeah, big round of applause for James.